Tony Gilroy's original pitch for Andor Season 2 has finally been revealed, and it's wild to see just how much of the finished show was already locked in before a single frame was shot.
Think about a planet like Ghorman in Rebellion.
This isn't just a treatment, it's the full outline he gave Lucasfilm, mapping out Cassian's arc, Mon Mothma's breaking point, and Syril's twisted path. And what's fascinating is that everything we saw on Disney Plus was already there.
I sense the weight of things I can't see.
The blueprint matches the final cut almost beat for beat, but what it gives us is clarity. With hindsight, we can see exactly where Gilroy wanted these characters' heads to be, and moments that once felt ambiguous now land with absolute certainty. So in this video, we're breaking down the pitch, exploring how it lines up with the finished season, and why Ghorman, always Mon Mothma's red line, was the hinge Gilroy built the whole season around.
I have friends everywhere.
Before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to catch more videos just like this, then you're in the right place. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
We have to win. We have to beat them. And I believe you have purpose in making that happen. I need to believe that. So I'm choosing for the both of us. I'm choosing the rebellion.
Alright, so with Andor Season 2's Emmy campaign in full swing, Lucasfilm have been dropping all kinds of behind-the-scenes goodies online, and the biggest of them is Tony Gilroy's original pitch for the season. This isn't just a couple of scribbled notes, it's the full blueprint he handed over to Lucasfilm, breaking down exactly how he saw each of these character arcs playing out. What I'm going to do is put that pitch side by side with the finished show and walk through how it lines up. We'll see what stayed exactly the same, what shifted in scale, and what the blueprint reveals about where Gilroy wanted these characters' heads to be. And with the benefit of hindsight, moments that may have read a few different ways, Mon's big choices,
We need to speak out. We need to stand up and speak the truth.
Syril's defeat, Bix's heartbreak, even Luthen's sacrifice, become crystal clear when you know the direction Gilroy was steering them in from the start. It also gives us a chance to revisit the season's biggest turning points and ask, were these outcomes inevitable from day one, or did the execution of the story change how we experienced them? Because if the pitch really did map out everything in advance, then maybe Season 2 was even more tightly woven than we realised. And trust me, once we hit Ghorman, the moment Gilroy always framed as the hinge for the entire rebellion, you'll realise how every thread in Season 2 was leading to this moment. Now, the pitch itself calls Andor a two-part novel, with Season 2 wrapping up the second half of the story. And honestly, that's the perfect way to look at it. Gilroy even sums it up in one line. Andor is an adventure story about the rise of a galactic revolution told through the journey of a nobody who ascends to an epic destiny. You couldn't ask for a clearer mission statement. When people call this show a spy thriller, they're not wrong, but it feels like that undersells it a bit. Gilroy's wording captures the scope. This isn't just a thriller, it's the myth of how a single nobody became the spark that lit the galaxy. He lays it out by saying that a year has passed since the riot on Ferrix and Cassian's take me or kill me ultimatum to Luthen. Now Cassian is at the tip of Luthen's spear, and the network is more ambitious than ever. And it makes sense because Ferrix wasn't just the Season 1 finale, it was the launch pad for Season 2. Up until Marva's funeral, the storylines were splintered, characters bumping into each other here and there. But the riot pulled everyone together, and from that moment on, the rebellion wasn't just scattered sparks, it was a fire beginning to spread. Now the pitch goes on to talk about how ambitious the network had become, and this is where I'd push back a little. Luthen was already masterminding Aldhani in Season 1, the first big public strike against the Empire, and he was brokering deals with Saul and Krieger to bring cells together. He wasn't exactly playing small back then. That said, when you throw Ghorman into the mix, and we'll be digging into that soon, you can see why Gilroy framed it as a step up in ambition. If Aldhani shook the Empire, Ghorman threatens to shake the whole galaxy. But yeah, if Luthen's trajectory felt like a continuation, Cassian's growth was undeniable. Right from the opening of Season 2 at the Synod test facility, we drop straight in on him stealing a ship. It's the first time we really see him embody the advice he gave back in Season 1. Walk in like you belong, and you can take pretty much whatever you want.
Takes more than that, doesn't it?
Only now he's not just talking the talk, he's calm, collected, and leading through the mission. That right there was our first glimpse of Cassian as a rebel leader, not just a survivor. And the real question the pitch plants here is, if Cassian is already that capable just 1 year later, where does the journey take him come the end? Because if Gilroy had this arc nailed down from the start, then every step Cassian takes is pushing him closer to Scarif, and when watching the destiny of Rogue One take shape in real time. Anyways, the next part of the pitch shifts gears to Cassian and Bix, and Gilroy doesn't hold back. He writes, Cassian and Bix, we let it loose, a passionate, complex, real love between two people who have been orbiting their whole lives and are now ready to make it together. We saw the power of their connection in season 1, we will lean into this now. They deserve a relationship worthy of the ingredients. And looking back, you could always sense there was something unspoken between them. In season 1, Cassian was more of a layabout, not really pulling his weight, whereas Bix was working hard for every credit she had to try and keep things afloat. They'd seem like they'd split paths for good. So when season 2 actually brought them together in such a grounded and believable way, it felt earned.
You sure you don't want to talk about it?
Cassian, even at his lowest point after losing Martha, still came through for Bix and carried her out of Ferrix. And from there, their story wasn't smooth sailing, but it was honest. She faced night terrors, trauma of the assault, and addiction, and Cassian stayed by her side through all of it, even trying to protect her from Luthen's demands. But yeah, then Gilroy drops one of the most surprising notes in the pitch. No one this season is exempt from sacrifice. Bix will face her deepest dilemma as she senses the strange pull of Cassian's destiny. In Block 3, they'll encounter a Force Healer who will dial in instantly to his aura. Cassian can't escape fast enough, but the encounter resonates with Bix. She can't help replaying the miracles of Cassian's journey and wonder, what if the galaxy's need for Cassian is more important than hers? Ultimately, she'll do more than let him go. She'll force herself to push him away. She senses what's coming. It's an epic decision and terribly sad, but there will be a ray of sunshine at the very end. Now, this is where it gets interesting because up until now, Andor had always felt so grounded, almost like it avoided anything mystical. So to suddenly bring in a Force Healer who recognizes Cassian's destiny, it reframes his entire journey. Was Cassian really just a man shaped by circumstance, or was there always something bigger pulling him forward? That's one of those questions that makes you look back on Nakina 5, Ferrix, even Aldani, and wonder if it was ever just survival, or if it was always being pushed towards Scarif. And yeah, that makes Bix's choice all the more heartbreaking.
It is a choice. It just can't be me.
She isn't just letting go of the man she loves because of circumstance, she believes his path belongs to the galaxy, not to her. Which raises a painful question, is this the ultimate sign of love in Andor, sacrificing your own happiness for the rebellion's future? It was a sacrifice that all the rebels had to make come the end. Gilroy doesn't just stop there either, he pivots to another unlikely romance. There's another romance in season 2, Dedra and Syril. We'll find them living together, their relationship will be no less complicated. ISB director Krennic will order Dedra to abandon her pursuit of Axis to take charge of the horrifying program to prepare the planet Ghorman for a complete annihilation. And I don't think anyone would argue that Dedra and Syril's relationship wasn't one of the weirdest dynamics in a galaxy far, far away. It was disturbing at times, awkward at others at best, but it humanized the villains in a way Andor did so well.
Turn out the lights.
Can't believe you had me followed.
Even the people enforcing Imperial cruelty still had messy, flawed relationships, and Gilroy clearly wanted to explore that duality. But here's the kicker, Dedra stepping away from Axis sets up the entire pivot to Ghorman, and the second that enters the picture, everything changes. And so yeah, this is where the pitch really plants its flag, and it's no surprise, it's all about Ghorman. Gilroy writes, Ghorman, unbeknownst to all but a very few Imperial conspirators, is the sole source of a mineral essential to the Death Star's operation. If alternatives are not developed in time, Ghorman will need to be destroyed. Taking Ghorman won't be easy. Now, when I first heard the Emperor's energy program, I'll admit, at first I thought it was a new kind of fuel initiative, but then after a few episodes, the penny dropped and it clicked. This is all a cover for the Death Star. That revelation is one of the things I love most about Andor. It lures you into the bureaucratic language of the Empire, only to drop the mask and show the horror underneath. The pitch then takes Syril's and Dedra's twisted relationship and flips it into tragedy. Dedra moves to Ghorman, Syril's already there undercover, playing clerk while secretly baiting the rebels into a trap. The irony is brutal. He thinks he's running the game, but the truth is he's just another pawn.
What have we been doing here?
And when he realizes even he's been lied to, the ground collapses beneath him. Everything he's built his life on, his devotion to the Empire, his obsession with Dedra, crumbles in a single instant. That's why his walk into the riot is so haunting in a way. He's not storming in with conviction, he's dazed, almost hollow when he locks eyes with Cassian. And the cruel poetry of it is, Cassian doesn't even know who he is. Syril at this point has spent 2 seasons chasing him, defining his existence by the hunt for Andor. And the last words he hears are Cassian asking,
Who are you?
It's a brutal inversion, his whole life invalidated in a heartbeat. And it makes you wonder, was Syril ever truly a part of this story, or was he just a tragic shadow orbiting the rebellion until it consumed him? And then we pivot to Mon Mothma. Gilroy lays it down. The Ghorman massacre is Mon Mothma's canonical red line. It's this event that prompts her stand in the Senate chamber. She will denounce the Emperor and be forced to flee. Now, we'd always known Ghorman was her breaking point, but seeing it reframed this way and then staged across two different incidents in the canon was brilliant. The retcon, in my opinion, doesn't weaken her story, it actually makes it richer. In the show, Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion becomes a full-blown turning point. Bail Organa orchestrates the politics, Mon takes the podium.
The monster who will come for us all soon enough.
And she makes her daring escape alongside Cassian, but yeah, what blows me away here is how long they held that meeting off, nearly 2 seasons before Mon and Cassian finally shared the screen. And when it happens, it's not quiet or ceremonial, it's in the chaos of the Senate escape as the rebellion is truly born. And here's the kicker, was this always meant to underline Luthen's role as the architect? Because without him, neither Cassian nor Mon makes it out.
Luthen. He's safe.
That's the thread that keeps running through Gilroy's pitch. Every great act of rebellion comes with a cost, and someone else always ends up paying it. So when you step back, Ghorman isn't just an arc or an episode, it's really the hinge of the rebellion. It crushes Syril, it completely pulls in Mon, it forces Cassian into the same orbit as her, and it cements Luthen as the man who lit the match. But it also leaves us with a question. If the rebellion needed a massacre to be born, what does that say about the galaxy they were fighting to save? Now the pitch then pushes us beyond Ghorman and into Yavin, and this is where things get really fascinating. Gilroy writes, sadly, as she joins the growing rebel alliance on Yavin, Luthen's exile will become increasingly stark. The larger movement he's spent his life working for has brought with it a new buffet of egos, betrayals and suspicions. How does one scale up a clandestine spy network? Yavin will grow too big to trust, and Luthen will be a one-man show for too long. Paranoia is inevitable. Luthen's defiance will see him so discredited that even when he gives everything for the intel that will lead to the discovery of the Death Star, the information will be discounted as the ravings of an outlier. Leia will bear the brunt of this injustice. Cassian will ignore the noise about his controversial mentor and break rank to source the rumours of Kyber Crystal and Galen Erso. Their sacrifices, like so many of our heroes, will be epic. And like, you really feel the tragedy in this, don't you? The rebellion grows, but instead of Luthen finally finding the community he's been working toward, it leaves him sidelined, mistrusted, even dismissed.
The problem, Captain, is Luthen.
Isn't it ironic that the man that arguably lit the fuse of the rebellion finds himself discredited when the Death Star intel comes through? We see shades of this in the later episodes when Yavin begins to take shape. Mon, Bail, and the others are at the center of the new alliance, while Luthen is still out in the shadows operating with Claire at his side. His last great acts are rescuing Mon from the Senate and relaying the Death Star intel, but after that, he fades. It makes you wonder, was he always destined to be written out of history? And yeah, here's where the paranoia note hits hard. The pitch suggests it's inevitable. But is that because of Luthen's nature, or because Yavin itself became too big, too political, too fractured to trust one lone operator like him? That's one of those questions that still hangs over the show. And then there's the cruelest part of all, the pitch. Like the version we've all seen, says even when Luthen gives everything for the intel that exposes the Death Star, no one believes him. It's brushed off as the rumblings of an outlier. It's even crazy to try and process. The galaxy's most important piece of intel was brushed off because the messenger didn't fit the mold. What does it say about revolutions when even their architects can be cast aside?
By people who have given a fraction of his sacrifice to this rebellion.
As we know, of course, Cassian doesn't care about reputation or politics. He trusts Luthen enough to break rank and follow the trail of Kyber Crystal Whispers and Galen Erso. And that loyalty feels like the final passing of the torch. Luthen lights the fire, but Cassian's the one who carries it forward. So yeah, by the time we roll into Rogue One, you realise the rebellion didn't just come together because of unity. It came together because of sacrifice, mistrust, and people like Luthen giving everything, even their credibility, to make sure the truth eventually broke through. And whether or not history remembers him, you know he wouldn't have cared. He didn't fight for recognition, he fought to get the job done. So yeah, looking back at this pitch as a whole, it really shows just how mapped out Andor was before the cameras even started rolling. Most shows shift and tweak, but in this case, what Gilroy laid down is exactly what we got on Disney+. And that's what makes the document so fascinating. It isn't so much about what's changed, it's about the headspace he wanted us to understand from the very beginning. Take Bix for example. That moment with the Force healer reframed her arc completely, showing how much she believed in Cassian's destiny even as she pushed him away.
We can do all the things we ever wanted. Everything we know we've missed.
Or Syril, his final moments were left so ambiguous on screen that you could read them a dozen different ways, but the pitch makes it clear he was just drifting, dazed, clinging to Cassian because it was the only thing familiar in the chaos. And that raises a painful question. If he had just a few seconds more to process, would he have turned on the Empire, or would he have hated the rebellion just as much? Now, one thing that really stood out to me is what isn't in the pitch. Luthen's death, one of the defining moments of Season 2, never shows up here. And that tells me Gilroy probably already knew that was coming, but that he was keeping that card close to his chest, even in a pitch to Lucasfilm. After all, if you put the guy who started the rebellion dies in your outline, doesn't that change how the studio looks at the whole story?
There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to disgust you.
And then of course there's the bigger shift. The show was originally supposed to run for 5 seasons, which is why Season 1 took its time covering a single year. Instead, Season 2 had to cover 4 years in just 12 episodes. Now at first that sounded rushed to me, but honestly after seeing it played out, they made the right call. The pacing was phenomenal, it kept the story sharp, and it gave every big moment, Ghorman, Coruscant, Luthen's sacrifice, its maximum impact. That being said, the show was so good that you can't help but wish we did have more. Imagine getting those extra seasons to flesh out every corner of this story. But then again, would it have hit as hard if it hadn't been condensed into one final, tightly written season? That's the question that still lingers for me, and I'd love to hear what you think. So yeah, as always, drop your thoughts, theories, and wildest speculations down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our analysis on how Luthen's death didn't just save the rebellion, but also the New Republic too. Anyways, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.